All right, hello. Thank you for joining me. This is a follow up, it's a new broadcast about energy healing. And this is meant to explain and support your understanding of astral travel and of asking permission. I mentioned in an earlier broadcast that we need to ask permission or we need to have permission to send healing energy. So we're going to dive into that today, right now. And we're also going to do that within the framework of what is known by many as the Ascension process. I like to think of Ascension as also the process of enlightenment, the process of lightening up the energies of our planet. And if you know anything about the Yuga cycles, the movement out of the Iron Age into the Bronze Age, into the lighter and lighter energies, we'll talk about that in another broadcast on alchemy, but we have just left the Iron Age and we're moving up into the Bronze Age, which is lighter energies, which is also ascension. It is lightening up. So as we come to explore astral travel and asking for permission to send healing energy, let's start with the here and now. Let's start with our 3D reality. The third dimension is what many of us know as reality. It's what we've been conditioned. I like to call it a Western linear conditioning. You can kind of already feel it's heavy old energy. It's the idea that unless I see it, I don't believe it's real. So this is very much the trappings of the physical world. So 3D reality gets us hooked in a lot of fear cycles. Fear and safety for our own well-being, fear and safety for whether or not we have enough resources, fear and safety for whether or not we can trust others and God or the universe. So I hope you can kind of start to sense that all those fears, a lot of humanity, we're ready to release and move beyond. Where do we go? We go to the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is where astral travel happens. The fourth dimension is still this land of light and dark, of yin and yang. It's really where we learn these almost like Harry Potter magic skills. It's where we come to understand transformation and transmutation of energies, where we come to really see that everything is already perfect and light and dark also balance each other out. So in this realm, this fourth dimension, this is where we get to understand astral travel and working in the etheric. So for a lot of us, this will come through your third eye. Depending on how you're wired, you might see, hear, sense, or feel the information, but really it can feel a lot like, this dream state. And I mentioned Harry Potter because that is kind of that magical space where you get to trust your intuition. You get to trust your inner knowing. You get to trust what you see in your third eye. So this is the place where we get to come to ask for permission to send energy healing. And before we get to how to do that, I really briefly just want to touch on where we're headed, where a lot of us can already feel is grounding down right now. That's the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is this beautiful space of oneness, of unconditional love, of light, of having moved fully beyond the ego through out of the third into the fourth into the fifth, where we get to still be in our bodies. We don't actually, the cool thing about this ascension or this enlightenment process is no one has to go anywhere. This is something that we get to stay in our bodies, we get to upgrade, and by the time we get to the fifth dimension, there is this lightness of being, this fully embodying oneness and interconnectedness. And that is what I've come to understand thus far. A lot of it is accomplished through our heart center, through higher vibrations of love and joy and gratitude. At least that's how we're starting to get the information now. So, as with everything, take what resonates for you. Let's jump into astral travel and asking for permission to send energy healing. So as you start to spread your wings and practice sending energy through your hands, you can do so in sort of the present moment, which is laying hands, as I mentioned in the earlier video, laying hands on yourself, not actually touching. I actually recommend letting your hands hover, because that way you won't get stuck in this 3D visceral world. That way you really will start to open up to new information that comes through your third eye, that comes through your energetic body. So as you hop on that path, one of the easiest ways to get permission, well, if you do energy healing on yourself, you're by default giving yourself permission. And if you do energy healing on another in this present reality, you can say, hey, can I send you energy healing? Or oftentimes just by default of them hopping on your healing table or setting down to have you run healing energy, they are giving you permission. What I'm talking about now is this space where we send energy to those we love who are in need, where we send energy to areas of the world that need it. There were a couple really amazing studies, I believe by the Rand Institute, where they documented that skilled meditators, which I like to flip-flop that with essentially people who understood their energy bodies and how to send energy, when those people gathered, either a couple hundred up into, I believe they almost reached 2,000. There's a couple different stories of doing this in the Middle East, doing this in Washington, D.C. The one that comes to mind is the Washington, D.C. I think it was over the course of 2 months of sending healing energy into Washington, D.C. They lowered the crime rate in that city by something statistically significant, and I believe it was around 25%. And this all happened during the time that these people were sending healing energy, So, and then also the cool part, I guess not the cool part, but once they stopped sending healing energy, the crime rate went back up. We're gonna, a little teaser for further, this is gonna be maybe in a few weeks, how to permanently shift energy is available to us now. But what I want to start to expose you to is that this possibility of sending healing energy that you may have experienced with a friend or a loved one has also been scientifically documented. Now, as I mentioned, we're moving out of the 3D and out of this need to believe it before we see it, but we're also still staying in 3D as we move into fourth and fifth dimension. So there's this convergence that's starting to occur where science and spirituality are actually coming to meet. So this astral realm is the place where a lot of the quote unquote magic that we know happens. So how do you get permission to send healing energy to someone that you may not know, to an area of the world that you may not know anybody, to sometimes there's someone who's in a coma and unconscious, or someone that you sort of think would be open to receiving energy, but maybe not if you point blank ask them face to face. There's a beautiful set of tools to ask people in the etheric, in the astral. And as you come to sense energy, you'll come to get the sense of yes and no very clearly. This is the type of realm where dowsing and pendulum work and even tarot cards can pick up on these fields of energy. I want to present you with something very simple to start your work in astral travel or in receiving, seeing if you have permission to send healing energy. So say you know somebody that you want to send healing energy to. In your mind's eye, in your third eye, after having centered yourself, you can call them. Imagine they're coming to sit right down in front of you, facing you. And you're seeing this in your third eye, you're seeing this in your imagination. Oftentimes people, I mentioned in my intro, I was told I had a very vivid imagination as a little girl. That was my third eye, super open. I could already see. So use your imagination, see what you sense and feel. So sit this person down that you want to send energy healing to in your mind's eye, in your third eye, invite them to come sit facing you. And in your mind's eye, tell them what's up. Tell them, hey, I am experimenting with, you can say this aloud, but you can also just say this in your internal dialogue to this person, whatever feels good for you. But I'm starting to experiment with sending healing energy. I have the sense that you might need some. Can I send you some? And now just watch what this person does in your mind's eye. There's a few different behavioral things that people can do, and they're pretty standard. They're things that we know. If the person gets up and walks away, that's a no. If the person stays seated there looking at you, that's a yes. If the person turns their shoulder, that's a maybe, possibly a no. So all these things, they might even speak to you, but you'll start to energetically feel this sense of yes and no. You also can start to, in your intuition, in your imagination, notice what you see. All right, so I hope that's helpful. And that's one of the very basic ways to start to work in the astral realm via your imagination, via your third eye. And another thing I feel called from Spirit to mention right now, as you dive into this fourth dimensional space of light and dark energies, of starting to understand how to transmute and transform energies, know that you are also always safe and sovereign. How do you do that? You declare it. So if as you're doing this work, anything sort of fearful comes up, know that you, because as I mentioned, one of the tenets is personal sovereignty. Know that you are personally sovereign. So you can say, hey, go away, or not welcome, or any sort of thing that you would do in this regular 3D world. What would you do if someone was trying to sit down at the dinner table with you and your family and you didn't want them there? You'd say, hey, not right now, see you later. So you can also do that with energies and things that you might start to sense as you jump into this astral travel realm. I'm also feeling called, after you know that you're safe and you're sovereign, simply by saying, I'm safe, this is my space, you create it. Work and act always from your heart. I mentioned this earlier, our heart centers are oh so powerful. We're going to get into a super powerful alchemical practice that I use in my alchemical healing sessions. From our heart, I've come to understand our heart is one of the most potent tools that we have as energy beings. And the thing that I love about all of these teachings is that there's nothing else you need besides you. So there's nothing to go buy, there's nothing to go achieve. It's within you already. So sit with that and know you're safe. You can start to explore communication in the astral realm. And as you work from your heart, your energy has the potential to be oh so powerful. So as you communicate, as you send energy, stay connected to your heart center. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. I will see you again very soon. Namaste.